thank you again so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Yeah. So our podcast is about your guys' journey in the music industry and how you got to where you are today.
Oh man.
I don't think we have enough time, bro.
Well, so Neal, tell me how you got into music.
Well, for me personally, I always loved singing as a kid. I loved Disney movies, and I didn't ever take any lessons or anything. I just loved to sing. And then when I was about 13 years old, we had moved to Utah when I was 9, but about 13, I picked up my mom's guitar. She had learned how to play the guitar while she was pregnant with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had picked up the guitar, and I was struggling in Utah because I was not of the predominant religion, which if you know anything about Utah, you know that it's very one-sided when it comes to religion.
Sure.
And so it was hard for me and my brother to adjust, and we were not included in a lot of functions for, via school. We were picked on quite a bit and kind of singled out because we weren't Mormon.
Wow.
And so
that's interesting. I've never heard that before.
Oh yeah, it's a familiar story. Not so much nowadays. I mean, it still exists very much so, and especially in sports and different kind of realms of political and social kind of settings where it's all the Mormon families. They're pretty tight because they all go to church together, like in the neighborhood or whatever.
Sure, that makes sense.
And so the other kids that aren't a part of that, like their church might be way far away, and you just don't have that population. So it was really difficult. I basically used the guitar to write songs. That was my one way to like kind of get away from it and not lash out at the other kids. So I turned to music, and that was my therapy. I'd sit in the corner and play my guitar and started writing songs and really getting all that frustration and all the things that were inside my head out in musical form through lyrics and songwriting. So I started writing songs really young. And then just from there, I loved it so much. I wasn't playing out in front of people very, very often, but by the time I got to high school, I had an English teacher that played the guitar. And so I became his TA, and then I'd sit and play with him, and he'd teach me different things on the guitar and kind of inspired me. It was like my first band was in a high school band, but I didn't play with them very long. And then, I don't know, I mean, music's always been, still to this day, it's my therapy. So it just, it saved me from a lot of trouble growing up. And I ran into the Royal Bliss guys after I was playing pizza parlors around Salt Lake, solo gigs. And even those solo gigs, I only had like 7 songs that I knew, like just a couple of covers and then my own songs. And then I would make up probably 15 songs on the spot where I just make up songs about people sitting in the corner of the room or the roof. And because I'd talk about my day and people would have no idea. They'd just be eating their pizza. My friends would be laughing because I'd be making fun of them or telling just ridiculous stories that inside joke kind of things. But that's when I kind of enjoyed being on stage. And then that's where the Royal Bliss guys found me they weren't Royal Bliss at that time. They had a band. And luckily their lead singer had a really bad acid trip and decided to go back to Jesus. So it was,
that's probably a pretty good story.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy it happened, so it worked out well for me. And and we started jamming and then I don't know, there was just this intense addiction to being on stage and playing in front of crowds. I just absolutely loved it. And so it was so much more than, it just was the total package as far as like that adrenaline and therapy, like getting these songs out of my head and then having that energy of a crowd and people that understood and looking out, especially like the first times when people were singing my lyrics back to me, man, it was the most powerful thing in the world.
Yeah.
I've been addicted ever since. So it's like, I can't, there's no treatment for it. I'm just stuck with
it. Sure. What about you, Brian? Are you from Salt Lake as well, originally?
Originally, I'm actually from LA area. I grew up in between Los Angeles and Bakersfield in a small little suburban desert town called Lancaster.
I know Lancaster. We're in San Diego. So
right on. Right. Yeah, 3 hours south, man.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I grew up there. And I didn't get into music I didn't get into playing music until my late teens. But I'd have to cite my brother as my biggest influence. he started playing guitar when he was 12 years old, and he was always like, Brian, come on, like you should get an instrument. And he was always kind of pestering me, like, you should play the bass because I play guitar. And
oh, sure.
Finally, like I'm 2 years younger than him, so that was from like 10 until I was about 17 is when I got my first bass. And then he taught me some songs, and then it's just kind of been, just rolling ever since.
Did you play with him growing up?
Oh,
like
yeah.
after you learned
Yeah,
bass?
yeah. Once I started playing, like we quickly started writing songs together, and we've pretty much been a band since then, and just always playing music together and bouncing ideas off one another and whatnot. And
he has a little side project called Bad Donkey. You got to check it out. It's
okay. Is that? I was looking. I'm like, I don't think your brother's in this band, is he?
Not anymore. He was. That's actually how I got hooked up with the band. Like I originally came out because I was living up in Northern California. I went to college up at Humboldt State University.
Okay.
And I actually studied music there. That's once I moved there, and like I actually was going to study art history. And then once I got there, I was like, you know what? I'm paying for school myself. Like, I'm going to do something that I really want to like go deep into.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to do music. And then that's when it was like, okay, this is real. Like, I'm really going to learn this shit. And
right.
I can say the S word, right?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Anyhow. Yeah. So like, I was playing upright bass in the like freaking symphony and like in jazz combos and all.
Oh, wow.
Stuff. And, yeah, it was pretty intense. But honestly, like I got more learning outside of the school. Like I gigged in a bunch of bands. Like there was a point where I was playing upright in 4 different bands where it was like a bluegrass band, a gypsy jazz band, a folk band, and like just whatever other gigs I would get. People just call me like, hey, we need a bass player. Can you come sit in this restaurant for 3 hours and read jazz charts? And I'm like, yep, like, I'll do it. And it's like, I don't know, just doing, cutting your teeth that way and
right.
Gigging and just, that's really where the experience comes from. But after I graduated, I stayed up there. I was working in guitar shops and just gigging and working odd jobs. And my brother called me up and was like, hey, like Royal Bliss needs a merch guy. Like we just need some help on the road. Like, why don't you come out and just get a change of scenery? So then I was like, all right. So I came out and ended up moving to Salt Lake and become, I was doing merch and tour managing. For a short while and just guitar teching, just all around roadie extraordinaire. And then when their old bass player left, it was just like I'm already here. I've heard the songs every night, so it was an easy transition, and I just took over on bass, and now here I am.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
We demoted him to bass player.
Yeah, that's the joke. I got demoted to bass player from merch
guy. From merch guy to bass player.
Merch guys get to talk to way more women.
That's awesome. So when you joined the band, did they already have you guys already had a couple records out, or where were you at as far as a band?
Yeah, we had about 9 albums, pretty much. Well, 8 albums at that point. And then we did our last record together, which was the first album that Brian played on, which was Royal Bliss, Royal Bliss.
That's why it's the greatest album ever.
And then and now we've gone in the studio and recorded another one together. I mean, it's been like just the chemistry when Brian came in. We were kind of, I don't know, in all honesty, I think we were in a funk there for a couple years, and Brian came in and it was just kind of like there was just a whole new vibe. There was a lot of healing that went on at that point, and we were able to write music and have a good time, and the camaraderie and everything, like just the vibe was flowing at that point, and it has ever since. I mean, of course we have our ups and downs. We're in a band and live in either a van or a bus or a motorhome together, and you gotta, it's not always going to be amazing. Well, yeah. So
I think I've seen enough VH1 behind the story or behind the music to say like that we're in a pretty good position, like as far as relationships go, and like how long the band has been around, and we're not all strung out or killing each other or anything. So I think in that respect, the bands are doing pretty darn good.
Yeah.
You're not doing one of those two things. You're all right in this industry.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, Neal, tell me about starting the band or joining these guys, because you said that they found you at a pizza place, and so the band was already going. Brian, your brother was in the band at this point too, prior?
No. So,
Okay.
gosh, Sean, God, what year was it? That was like 98?
That 98?
When did
Oh, we started. So the band, we actually started in 98, like
Okay.
high school.
So,
Believe it or not, like that far back in high school. And we wrote a couple records. We, played locally around Salt Lake City.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started to grow. And then we played, we started doing a lot more tours. We signed to Capitol Records and did some stuff with them. And his older brother was playing in the band Candlebox.
Oh, okay.
And so that's how we met, was Candlebox. We played with them at a festival here in Salt Lake, and the singer Kevin was, I guess, really impressed with our set and was just like, we got to get these guys on tour. So we went on tour. We became friends with Sean. Memphis is what they call him, Brian's older brother. And so Candlebox kind of took some time off, and Sean was like working in a restaurant and being an Uber driver and all these other jobs.
He was in a really bad relationship at the time too.
He was
like
going. He was nosediving.
Yeah.
And we didn't know all that, and it worked out well because there was a show that Taylor couldn't make, our other guitarist, and so we called Sean, and this has never happened in our career. We're just like, hey man, can you fill in for Taylor? You know our songs. And Sean would come up and play with us when we were on tour with Candlebox. And so he flew out and joined us for a small run and filled in for Taylor for a couple shows. And then we're just like, dude, you should just stay. And so he stayed with us. And, luckily it led to, it's kind of a funny, circumstance. Our first music video with Sean, he met his fiance, like they met that day on the set, and their first kiss was on the music video, and now they're married.
And they just celebrated their 2-year wedding anniversary last week.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So they were in the video, and then that sparked like a relationship?
Yeah, it did.
Cool.
Brooke, his wife now, worked with my wife, and we needed like a hot cheerleader type chick, and she used to be a cheerleader, so they met. The song is called Turn Me On. You can watch that.
It's a pretty awesome video.
It's hilarious.
It's quite entertaining.
It's a hilarious video. But yeah, so yeah, they met there at the coffee shop, and they just hit it off. They went for a date shortly after that, and they've been locked at the hip ever since.
Wow. How amazing. That's cool.
That was a cool story. But yeah, so we, as far as, we've been around for a long time, plain and simple. And how we got started was, the whole pizza parlor thing, to backtrack a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically one of those moments where I was going to college. I had a decent job where we rehearsed, and the other guys were in high school. I got to backtrack there too. But we had rehearsed one night, and then we wrote like 5 songs that evening, the first rehearsal. And it was just this amazing vibe. And I was just like, that's it. I'm dropping out of college. I'm going to be a rock star. I quit my job. And then it was just full bore. We hadn't named the band yet, but I put all my Christmas money that year into building, putting foam and insulating this room so we could rehearse behind my drummer's house. And it was just full steam ahead. There was no going back at that point, I think, for any of us. But, it's just, we were just a bunch of kids. At that time, we loved Sublime and 311 and Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, and we still do. But that was a lot of our influence. We started out, we kind of had almost a reggae rock vibe, singing about chicks and partying and girls and all that stuff. And then evolution happened, and then we fell in love with the girls, and then they broke our heart, and then we started learning about industry things. Then just life started happening to us, and then our music kind of evolved into some more, serious life situation kind of songs, more of a rock and roll, and it got heavier and heavier and heavier. And here we are today. We had a brief stint there for a couple years where we kind of did more of a southern rock kind of thing, where things were good. We had a big ass tour bus. We felt pretty good, but I think we ventured too far out of our comfort zone, and it kind of screwed with some things. But then that led us back to rock and roll. Things were going a little too well, so we needed some adversity to write about. So we just kind of self-inflicted some torture and without meaning to, but it got us.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we were kind of like, we were comfortable. We we got a little too comfortable with our situation, and we had a lot of fans around the country. We were able to play and do everything on our own term. We didn't have a record label. We had a big tour bus and a sponsor.
Wow.
We were writing songs with a good friend of ours, Monty Powell, who was like, he's written 7 #1 hits in country music. And we had never done that before. And we were just kind of taking a break. I'm like, let's write some songs. And he's like, hell yeah. So we kind of wrote these Southern rock jam kind of songs. He put us in all these crazy country music festivals. So one night we'd be playing with Keith Urban and
Wow.
Aaron Morris, and the next night we'd be with Rat and Buckcherry. It was a crazy summer, but I mean, we learned a lot, but it was also just like, I don't know, I think we had a little bit of a identity crisis there. And,
Oh, sure.
And so I think we got a little too comfortable, and you know, it just, the vibe changed. That was whenever the vibe changed, and Brian kind of came in at the end of that. And you know, Sean left the band at that point. He got married and kind of wanted to move on. He was sick of the road. We got, the tour bus had fallen apart. The relationship with the sponsor had fallen apart, and just things kind of we're in a spiral. We were all kind of like, oh man, what are we going to do now? But you know, we just sunk ourselves into our soul, which was rock and roll. And we were able to write some great songs and come out of it. And we released Devil with Angel Eyes, and that, you know, it's kind of the introduction. Hey, you know, these guys, this is rock and roll. They're not going country. Don't worry. We never went country. It was just a little bit of Southern, but there was a little bit of pop there, I guess, that could have been argued, but I'm probably talking too much.
No.
And, but it was one of those things where, you know, the music saved us once again, and our fans were still there. You know, our fans are like, all right, you know, do whatever you're doing. We love your music no matter what. But once we started turning the corner and we came out with Royal Bliss, Royal Bliss, I mean, that record had 4 songs that charted top 40. And I think it's one of the best records we've ever written. And it felt so good. And it was the 4 of us, and we kind of just came back. And I think our fans noticed as well, like there's this whole new energy about you guys, and everything is just, it's like old Royal Bliss is back. That fun, awesome, just kicking ass and not really giving a shit, you know, just like, we're just here to have a good time and hope everybody else does too. And all the songs are being written by us and from, you know, like from our souls and our stories of life, and nobody else's. And that's what Royal Bliss is about. It always has been. And so now here we are today. We just wrote a new album that should be out next year, and we're excited about it. It's freaking awesome too. And we're having fun. You know, we're surviving through this crazy ass pandemic, and music is what is keeping us alive. And our fans, without them, we'd be screwed right now. So
Sure.
I'm glad we turned the corner.
Yeah. And wow, so that's right when so Brian joins the band, and then you guys go back you write this rock record.
Yeah, I was doing like the merch. I came out and like I worked for them for a few months in 2015, just a few tours, and then I came out like officially when I moved out to Salt Lake was 2016. I remember I drove from Humboldt. Took me like 2 days, and I left Humboldt on Memorial Day, and then I got here 2 days later, and then we hit the road like a day after that. And that was 2016. And that was the summer that we did all those country festivals and stuff. And
oh, okay.
It was just like, I was just thrown into this world all of a sudden. And it was like, all right, yeah, you're the tour manager and you have to do this and this. And it was just like, what the hell? Like, okay.
Were you playing yet with
no,
them?
I wasn't playing. But I was mostly doing the merch, but then I was like, I was pseudo tour managing. I say that because it's like the old bass player took care of a lot of stuff, and like, he wouldn't necessarily let go of some of the like responsibilities that I should have been doing.
Right.
So I was only getting like half of what I was supposed to know. And then I was like talking to these promoters that are dealing with, you know, freaking big people. And then here comes little Brian like, hey, where can I get a bottle of water? And I just had no idea what I was doing. Like, it was quite a learning experience, that's for sure. But, you know, I survived. And then I was doing merch. I did that all through 2016 and then all through 2017. And then I took over bass, and I think my first gig was October of 2017. So coming up on 3 years now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So,
and then how quickly after that did you guys go in the studio and record the self-titled album?
Right after I took over bass, we recorded Devil with Angel Eyes pretty quickly after that. It was like that winter, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think we did the video in January.
Mm-hmm. January, February.
And that song pretty much like Neal had co-written it with what's her name again?
Cammy Lynn Morrison.
Cammy Lynn Morris. Yeah. So they already had the tune pretty much there.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought it to us, and then we just kind of, put the Royal Bliss touch on it. But then after that, it was just kind of like we wrote those other songs. Some of them never got recorded. Sean was still in the band at that time.
Mm-hmm.
We wrote like 5 tunes with him, one of which was Hard and Loud.
Yep.
And Adrenaline, which is on the last album.
Really, that Royal Bliss record, we basically would go into the studio, record 2 or 3 songs, and then another 2-3 months down the line, we'd go back in, record a couple of songs. We really didn't have any intention whatsoever of doing an album.
Yeah.
We were just like, well, let's just get in and write some songs. And hey, we got a couple more songs. Let's go in and record them. Because I mean, today's environment of music is you have no idea, like if you want to release a single at a time or you want to release an album at a time or whatever. It's kind of new, and that's kind of how we were looking at it. And then we ended up with like 13 songs. We're like, well, shit, let's put out an album. and they work together. There's like 3 different producers, 3 different studios, and
they all sound relatively cohesive, which would be hard to do sometimes when you're recording, in different locations with different people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you listen to the album and it sounds pretty damn cohesive, all like through and through, like as an album.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way it turned out. I'm glad. I would love to do the next record that way too. The record that we just did, we signed a deal. It was like, all right, now give us an album in 90 days. And we we're like, oh, okay, let's write 17 songs. And so we wrote all the songs real quick. We had maybe 5 or 6 already in the tank, but we wrote all these others real quick and kind of went in the studio for 3 weeks here and then a week up in Portland, and the record was done. And that's another way to do an album, but I really enjoyed doing the way we did Royal Bliss, because it wasn't stressful at all. And there was no time requirement. There's no restriction. It was just like, all right, cool. We got 1 song done in these 2 days. Sweet. Doesn't really matter. And let's put it in the closet and see what happens. And but now it's every time we've recorded an album, it's been completely different. And I think it reflects on the songwriting and the sound of the album too.
How do you feel about writing that? And like you said, they gave you 90 days or whatever. Was that beneficial? Like, I don't know. Like some people work really well under pressure. Some people don't.
I tend to write lyrics pretty well under pressure. I'm really bad at procrastinating. Like when we recorded the record, I still didn't even have all the lyrics. Like we did all the music, and I was just
it was a lot of meow 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 meow.
And then I had enough for Portland to do the lyrics, and I basically wrote the lyrics sometimes the night before I went in the studio, which is the way I used to always do it. Well, it's kind of the way I've always done it. But I think, if there were to be 90 days at any point in history, the 90 days that we did it was a pretty good time to do it. I mean, there was a lot to write about. There's a lot going on in the world. And I think a lot of musicians out there are doing the same thing where, we write being inspired by life. I mean, that's what our songs are about, and the emotion, the way these guys play at that particular time, and the songs they're writing, kind of the groove, where your headspace is, and what's going on all around us. And we had been locked in at that point. Our whole summer had been canceled, 136 shows canceled. We had just had a song break top 20 for the first time in our career, but we couldn't do anything about it to help push it anymore. And so there was that moment of like, oh crap, what are we going to do? And then we signed the deal, and that kind of was like, hey, it gave us something to do. It gave us purpose. It gave us a meaning, and it involved music. So I think it was kind of our saving grace to be like, all right, yeah, let's go in and record these songs and write, because I mean, there was plenty to write about. It was so good to get out of our homes and actually come here to write the songs. Even though this is in my backyard, it's still nice to walk. It's a separate building. I still have to walk like 30 feet to get here, so it's like leaving. But
wow, so you guys wrote and recorded this record all in the span of the lockdown?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Essentially, we started.
It was.
we signed the deal in April, right? April 12th, I think.
Yeah, we signed the deal April and went to work.
We wrote a good chunk of the songs after that, like through the rest of April. We were in the studio most of May.
Yep.
And then Neal went to Portland, and was that with June, right?
Yeah, in June.
Yeah. So like we, of course, like we tweaked a lot of stuff along the way. Like we'd get one thing with this band in the writing process is, I don't know, we're pretty efficient, I would say. Like we definitely, go back and forth. Like, no, let's try this, let's try that. Like we definitely, we try to let everyone's idea get expressed before we kind of come to a final conclusion on which one we want. So it's like, I might have an idea, like, can we try it like this? And then like Taylor, the guitarist, might be like, let's try it this way. And then we'll kind of sometimes meet in the middle, or kind of just, take a vote. It's very democratic.
Mm-hmm.
And
we all write. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. We all bring different things to the table in the writing process. Neal's like, hey, I got like these 3 chords and a few lyrics, and I'm like, I got this bass riff. Like maybe we can do write something around this, or like a couple of the songs. Actually, Jake, our drummer, on this new album, he pretty much kind of programmed the whole things for the most part on GarageBand, just like the structure of them, and for the most part, and then we just kind of take that rough structure and just develop it and let it evolve into what it has become. So that was the case for this whole new album. Was just each one of us just kind of, we're all building the house together essentially.
Sure. Wow.
And, so, but we got everything done pretty quickly for the most part, with things we were happy with. And then our producer Rob, he while we're in the studio, things definitely got tweaked and changed, and we tried, we did a fair amount of experimenting with sounds. And the studio we recorded at, the guys got the most awesome collection of guitars, basses, and old amplifiers, and just all like, it's like a wet dream for a musician, And, so we did there's a track on the album where I think there's like 3 separate guitars going on that Tay did, and one of them we ran one of the guitar caps through like an old Leslie speaker, so it gave it like this really cool like whirly sound, and just doing stuff like that, which you can't necessarily do all the time. And so it was fun. We just we kind of had the time in a sense, so we just kind of like, what, let's think outside the box a little bit and expand things. And
yeah, it was cool. We wrote the songs and we'd send them to Rob, and then Rob would fly down. He's from Portland, Rob Daiker. He'd fly down Monday. We'd do pre-production Monday night. Then we'd go in the studio Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and lay down the songs. And we'd do
fly home Friday.
3 songs, and then he'd fly home Friday. We'd work out some more songs over the weekend, send them to him. He'd come in Monday. We'd go through pre-production, and we did that for 3 weeks, where that was the process. Fly in Monday, fly out Friday, and I think it turned out really damn cool. So
that's cool. Like with the Royal Bliss record, because that came out last year. Were you able to tour it at all, or did you put that out and then COVID hit, or what was like the gap process? And you guys said you signed a record deal in there as well.
Yeah, so we signed the record deal actually this April in 2020. So believe it or not, a label actually wanted to sign us. It's Explorer One, E1. So we signed with them in April, and then we did that whole process of doing this record. Before we were unsigned and released Royal Bliss, and we were able to tour on that all last fall, or basically from fall. Devil with Angel Eyes came out in the fall, right?
The fall
year before, right?
Yeah.
2018. So we were able to do 2018, and we released
Hard Loud came out last. No, that was even
because we released. Did we release it April? It was April 2018 that we released Royal Bliss.
Has it been 2 years? No, it came out last year. I don't even know.
I can't remember. We don't. This is where Taylor knows all that stuff.
Yeah, because Devil with Angel Eyes came out first, and that was like that song we had just put out, and that wasn't there at that point. There was no intention to record a new album or anything. It was just like, hey guys, like, hey, we're still making music. Just like this was mostly, I would say, for the fans. Just like, hey guys, like, just here's a kick-ass song. We hope you like it, and it just did really well. And then we were kind of recording a few more, like Neal was saying, how we just record a couple, and then a few months later record a couple more. And then we released Hard and Loud came out after that.
Hard and Loud went to top 40.
Yeah, same thing. Hard and Loud did really well. And we did the Hard and Loud tour with that was with Messer and Joyce Wolf.
With Joyce Wolf and Messer.
And then Pain came out Pain came out, I think, right around when the album actually came out.
April. So it came out in April of 2019, right?
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
I'm looking online. It says 2019.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So I don't know.
It's like Devil with Angel Eyes was recorded like a year and a half before the album.
Yeah.
It's kind of
We had it for a while.
Wikipedia has screwed me before, so I don't know.
It's probably right. It knows more about our career than we do.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And then Paranoid came out last fall.
Yep.
And then we were writing that tune until the pandemic hit. So.
Yeah.
And now we just put out Medication.
Yeah. Medication. Tell me about that song, because you have a feature in that one as well.
Yeah, our boy Shem. And those of you that don't know Shem is the former lead singer of Sick Puppies. And he is managed by our same management company, FM Management. And so he was out here for Sundance Film Festival. We live in Salt Lake, obviously, and Sundance is just up in Park City, which is like an hour away tops.
Mm-hmm.
And management was just like, would you want to do some writing with Shem? And I'm like, sure, man. And so he came over to my house, and we stayed at my house for 2 nights, and we just hung out and wrote songs. And that was one of the songs that we wrote. Taylor came over. It was actually kind of inspired. The music was inspired by an old Royal Bliss song that never saw the light of day. And then he had some idea starts lyrically. And then we just kind of started just spitting. And before we knew it, we had that song. And then it kind of came to release it now. It's perfect with the music video and everything else, because the medication that we're talking about is music.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've witnessed, from being able to do a few small shows here and there over the past few months. Man, what live music does for people, and especially for us, for musicians. I remember walking on that stage for the first time that we got to get back on a stage and play in front of 50 people. It was the best damn feeling in the world, and the crowd, like as soon as we walked up there, the crowd's just screaming and, oh my God, there's people crying. I mean, it was intense. And that's whenever I was like, man, Medication, we got to release that song. This is exactly what this is. This is the medicine that people need, is live music and music in general. And that's what kind of guided that whole idea of the music video, that is based around us going crazy, locked up in a cell until we get to break free and make it into the room of music where all our instruments are. We're finally allowed to play and breathe. And, I wish that we could have done it where we broke out into a concert and there's all these people, but you can't do that right now.
Sure.
But I think it comes across that is what our Medication is. But yeah, that song just kind of, it flowed out of me and Shem and Taylor, and we wrote that over a year ago. So that was one that we already had recorded with Joel Pack. It was recorded, and then I was telling Shem, like, you're going to be coming through town. We played a festival out in Nevada. I'm like, lay down the vocals on the second verse. Would you do that? He's like, hell yeah. So, I mean, he was borrowing our van anyways to drive out there with his band. So we like, dude, hey, you want to borrow this van? You got to sing our track, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
So it worked out well.
That's awesome. Have you guys you said you talked about doing a couple shows. Were they like streaming things? Like, have you been able to play since being locked down?
We've been able to play. So we actually I'm a co-owner in a bar and live music venue here in Salt Lake.
Oh, cool.
And called the Royal, and it's not a big stretch, but but as soon as we were able to, with the health department, we were able to open up at about 10% capacity, which, where everybody would wear a mask inside and everybody's got their own tables, socially distanced, and you can't get close to the stage, and we're 25 feet away from everybody. So they gave us these guidelines where, we're temperaturing everybody that comes in the door. And we were able to play an inside concert in, when was that first one? Was that in April?
I don't think it was that
No,
early.
not May. I think May was the first time that we were able to do that. So,
oh, that's cool.
And we're playing there again this weekend, where I know in California, you guys are completely shut down, but.
Oh yeah. We're like, they just even, I think we're on the next, whatever the highest level tier thing is now, because they just shut down trick-or-treating for the kids and everything.
Yeah, we saw that, man.
What?
No trick-or-treating.
No trick-or-treating. So yeah, I don't know. they've tried to do drive-in things a couple times. I've heard about like 3 of them, and then that kind of faded away. So I'm not really sure what's going on.
It's tough, man. I feel for the people out there, and there's a bunch of other states that are in the same predicament. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but man, like here, luckily we're fortunate to be able to do what we have here, and we did a couple shows up in Idaho. I mean, it's just like I said, man, it's what people need. It's music and the sporting events and things like that. They're the things that bring everybody together, man. It's that you're not caring about what the differences are. You don't give a shit because you're there to enjoy this band that you all have that in common, that you either love this band or you're there to rock out and enjoy yourself, and you don't care what the other person's views are. Same with like being at a baseball game. If you're wearing the same hat, you're rocking a Cardinals hat and they hit a home run, you're high-fiving and you don't give a shit. No Dodgers hat, Cardinals hat. But that's, I mean, and you see that connection with people, like getting to play these shows. And, I've had two men come up to me in tears, full on tears. It's like, as soon as you started playing, I haven't been able to stop crying. It's like, this is the first concert I've seen in 4 months. And these are people that go to concerts, once a week, twice a week, because that's their release. That's their thing. And you realize what the power is that music holds and what it does for people. So I feel so, I think that's why social media and so many things in the world are so tight and people are so at each other's throats. They don't have the release. The only release they have is, getting drunk and getting mad at their kids or whatever, it's like
getting mad at the computer and typing up some mean stuff. Yeah.
MU Zoom.
Yeah, right. Totally. Well, I mean, I'm glad that you guys were able to play a little bit. That's cool. What do you just do the show and then that, or do you stream the show, or Well,
we just do that. We stream every once in a while. We've done a lot of live streams here from this room where we've done, a couple acoustic here. We did a Stage It one a couple of weeks ago. And then, we mainly just do a Facebook live feed for those people that are out and about or can't go out to a concert, to give them a sense of normalcy and just, stream whatever our concerts, or at least a few songs a show. And then we do dedicated live streams as well, which we'll do at least once a month, where we set it up and actually have good quality sound, and cameras and everything else. And we found that's the thing with this whole pandemic. I think a lot of musicians and a lot of people out there in almost every field have figured out new ways to do things where, like how to sound good whenever you're recording. Like if this was 7 months ago, we would not have microphones in front of our face, and we'd be this close to the computer being like, can you hear me?
Right.
We would look like Owen Wilson and Zoolander when they're on the computer.
But because of all this, we've figured out, I think, bands and so many people have figured out, like, oh, well, I get this little device, and then we can actually sound good going through this and that instead of.
We're adapting.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody is, dude.
We're going through like a big phase of evolution right now in some sense.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've said this before, but it's like, 5 months ago, half the world didn't know what Zoom was. I mean, it wasn't a thing anyone had to use.
Yeah.
I wish
and
I
now
was in it.
Yeah. Now it's just like new normal. Like, Zoom. Everyone has to figure out how to use it.
Household name now,
And it's cool, man. At least it's the one of the ways to keep connected to people. Like this is cool.
Yeah, that is the one thing I will say is about this whole lockdown and everything and these conversations. It's like, if this weren't to happen, we wouldn't be able to have these. Like, I wouldn't know where you guys recorded. You're like in your studio. You know what I mean? Like, it's bizarre. And I think a lot of people fans at least, like you watch, Green Day or whatever, Billy Joe's like playing in his living room and you're like, wow, that's what his living room looks like. That's insane.
Yeah. Right.
Like, that stuff to me,
I have
like,
that same plant.
Yeah, right. Or you're like looking around the background, like, oh, that's a cool poster or whatever. And it's stuff like that I think is so cool because you guys are, opening your life to your fans and, You know, no one would know what the inside of your practice place looked like if you weren't doing this right now.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I was trying to figure out what is that poster above your record player. I was looking
This
at
one?
that. Yeah, the red one. What's going on? Yeah, that big guy there.
The girls? That's
yeah,
the Beaches. They're a band from Canada. They're called the Beaches.
Okay. I just see a bunch of red, and I was just trying
and then that's Blink.
Oh, nice.
Like, old version of Blink. Like pre-tattoos and Tom and everything else there.
Oh.
I think that photo's from like 99 or something.
Oh, wow.
So
The Beaches. What a great name for a girl band.
Oh yeah, they're awesome.
That's
Yeah, they're getting big. They opened up for like the Rolling Stones and stuff in Canada.
Oh,
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Check them out.
I dig them, but
Have you heard of the Deads?
Yeah, I got.
You got to check them out. That's a badass girl band as well.
Deads? Is it
Yeah,
DEAD or?
Yep.
Okay.
Deads.
They're like all female. I would say like an alternative rock band out of Nashville.
Oh, cool.
We did the Kiss Cruise last year, last October, and we met them. They were one of the bands that were on there as well. And
oh, cool.
they're
The
really
Kiss Cruise do they play? Like Kiss
Yeah.
play? Wow.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're out of Atlanta. Is it bad? Okay, so question: should I call it a woman band, or is it bad to call it a girl band, female band? I don't even know nowadays. Like when I said, "Oh, that's a cool name for a girl band," it's like I would probably be irritated if they're like, "Oh yeah, it's a good name for a boy band."
Yeah, it's
You know, I'm thinking about
our boy
it.
band's called Royal Bliss.
Our boy band is called Royal Bliss. We are a boy band.
We can take it out.
No, I'll even keep this part in. I think we'll be good.
I'm just gonna remove this part. So it's all. Well, thank you guys so much for doing this. This has been great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank
Man.
you for having us, man.
Yeah, are you guys you're in Utah now or no?
Yeah.
Okay, still in there. That's cool. Right on.
Yeah, this is our home. We're gonna be here for a while now. I think all the rest of the year. You know,
Sure.
Our next tour date isn't until April of next year, and we're hoping, fingers crossed, that happens.
Oh my gosh. What about the new record? Is that coming out soon, or you're just doing singles?
It's coming out.
Okay. It's coming out. That's good. Right on, guys.
We don't know yet. We were going to release it this year because we were hoping to be on the road again, that everything would start moving faster. We were hoping to release it in October, but that is definitely not going to happen. So it'll be sometime next year.
Right on. Right on, guys. Well, again, thank you so much for doing this. I do have one more question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Do we have plenty of?
Don't give up.
Yes. See, that's a big one.
Don't give up. Keep practicing. Be yourself. You're gonna get stomped on a lot.
It is. It's so many people want to try to be other people in music, and they want to try to emulate other people.
Especially today when it's so easy to just like YouTube anything and like, oh, I just don't be a rip-off artist.
Yeah.
It's obviously, be inspired.
The best way to be original is to be yourself. And I mean, just learn, study, get an LLC, build a relationship with a bank.
Yeah. Don't be a dick.
Yeah. Don't be an asshole. Number one to anybody.
There's enough of those in the industry.
Yeah. Be ready to work your ass off. And I think number one is you got to love this. You got to love playing music more than pretty much anything else. And because it is a hard industry to survive in, and it is a lot of work. There's not a lot of money in it anymore. And you can still make a good living at it, but you got to be ready to really put the time in, and you have to love being on that stage or creating your art more than pretty much anything. That's got to fulfill you in such a huge way that if it doesn't, you are not going to make it in this industry. So if you're wanting to do it to be, get famous or get chicks, that shit doesn't work anymore, because chicks like money and there's no money in this. So it's one of those things where
don't play bass if you want chicks.
But yeah, I mean, I could go on forever and ever, but I mean, explore all your social media outlets and just study.
Work hard and be nice is the main thing. Really.
Yeah. Work hard, be nice, and love what you do.
Bring me that word.